In the deep blue waters of the Pacific Ocean, hugging the coasts of the Philippines, lives an ethnic group known as the Bajau. The magnificent oceans of the world carry the source of all life, water. Humanity's absolute dependence on it can be seen in the lives of tiny communities around the world who still live with the ocean. In Southeast Asia, the Bajau tribe has created a tiny community that lives entirely on water. The harsh environment and unpredictable climate have never stopped them from doing the impossible. These seafaring gypsies have forged a living in the choppy seas away from the stability and comfort of land. Over the last few decades, many of these tribes have migrated closer to land. Nevertheless, they have still held onto their culture of living on the sea, settling in coastal areas in close proximity to land. Bajaus are a nomadic seafaring tribe, constantly in search of the next ideal maritime spot to settle in. Although the history of the Bajau is unclear, many believe that they were driven out to sea by population pressures and more dominant tribes. They sought solace in the tranquility of the sea, ultimately earning the title People of the Sea. In the central Visayas region of the Philippines is the island province of Bohol, where a Bajau village has been set up in the Bohol Sea. Hugging the shore, the village is built entirely out of wood. The platforms are anchored with wooden pylons driven into the seabed. Mario Kuham, the chief of the village, comes from a family who settled here close to 40 years ago.
May na matutulan daw sila. 300 pamilya. Dahil atago na kay may naan eh. Alaman niya sa di pa ko sa kami, napay ninaan. Niya kami bilahay mag patan na matahik ito, apay nakaluman kami. Alaman niya sa di kaluman kami matahik ito. Kaya alaman niya tana kami. Angkan kami alum pag-usaha marilaw ito.
Owing to their maritime heritage, most Bajau men earn a living as fishermen. Jimmy Karalani is a free-diving spear-gun fisherman. Learning the skills from his legendary forefathers, Jimmy has honed them to perfection whilst coexisting with his coastal surroundings. His daily routine starts at 8 in the morning.
Napagsiya ko may pakalaw ya, kao na siya pamana. Pag tinilaw, tinagtilod na siya base, tinilod. Akatis tinilod na ng tuparan na. Katis pag sa tuparan na patuhon na siya. Alaman niya hinang sandi, badyaw man. Pagkatis siya mana, mga niyarayang na buwata nilabuan na siya bangkay, buwata naan nilabuan, nakatis nilabuan, nilumang yung handa. Lumungan mareho. Ani niyarayang nga pinana na siya, tinuhog na siya makanaylon.
Not far from the village, Jimmy prepares for his free dive. He wears a primitive homespun form of fins made entirely out of wood. Although traditionally the Bajaus use wooden homemade goggles for their free diving, Jimmy uses a modern scuba diving mask as the sea is not clear closer to land. Once equipped, Jimmy grabs hold of his spear gun and focuses all his energy towards the dive. Preparing himself for the hunt, he slows his breathing and looks calmly into the waters beneath, reaching an almost meditative state.
Ano niya mang patuhon ng hapnapas. Pahali ki. Pagkatis pahali, patuhon na. Pagkatis patuhon niya ang danaray nga mana na. Pagkatis sa mana mga niyaray niluwan ni bangka.
These Bajau fishermen have the capacity to dive down to the depths of the sea and stay underwater for up to 5 minutes. It is for this reason Jimmy calms himself down before a dive. Focusing on his breathing and reaching a trance-like state helps to slow his heart rate and metabolism to reduce his oxygen intake. At depths of 20 meters, water pressure is up to 3 times of that on the surface, compressing lungs that are already lacking oxygen. These habitual free divers have mastered the ability to withstand the pressures of staying deep underwater for long periods of time. Jimmy free dives all the way down to the seabed and proceeds to utilize a unique skill of the Bajau. He walks.
Mangtabon na ora mo le na siyam. Minabilian pe ni ano ko ora. Katis pinabilian niya ko ora amli takaka na mo le ni luma. Pagpole ni luma natuli na kami na. Kaya ako mo panabay bang patuho nanulog na panapak na bang buat sali no tinelas bang maraya. Buat ito ro iya panapak bang maraya pangambay. Buat ay pangan lumangan. Kambila sabtangan ng ambay katis ang ambay pihay.
Shirking off the pressure and the urge to gasp for air, Jimmy remains focused on the hunt. Once he locates a fish, he wastes no time in raising his spear gun and taking aim. With an absolute mastery of his weapon, he pulls the trigger and bags his first fish of the day.
Tug ni nailo niya kati sa milak ang halapana, agpihan na sa lumungan na sa pagpihag libutan. Akati sa libutan mga niya rayong pinana na siyab, tinuong na siyab ni nylon. Akati sa gilapan, nagtilod.
Jimmy repeats this process several times a day, a strenuous effort that takes a toll on his body. To prevent himself from exerting any unnecessary energy, Jimmy will swim against the current when he is underwater. This will ensure that when he surfaces, the natural flow of the current will carry him towards the boat without him having to swim towards it. The simplicity of their daily routine masks the miracles that these men perform. The physicality and technical expertise required to do what they do can only be explained by the fact that these are people living in pure harmony with the rhythms of the sea. Jimmy's hunting will sometimes lead him to find tuklabo, various types of shellfish that can be sold for extra income.
Alas 2 sa muli na, sinilo ninyang naiyay, na sinamu na siya ko. Si Vilma kakanta iloy, dapabilihin. Pagka kaniniya na sinisi, niya na sinay, tinatan na iya.
Although free diving brings with it serious health risks like blackouts underwater, many of the Bajau have naturally evolved to master the various risks involved.
Tinoon ako panditaling ako. Pag na ako tinoon ay makuha karanakan ko Pag umo siya katis pa tinoon ay ko pag diata ako di bangka panditaling ako. Pag panditaling ako Minote haling nahalam na pahali na. May pa minote. Hali na. May pa pahali patuhon na. Nalam na pandi. Ito bang sa karapito na ako siya, malay na ba, malay na tuod. Akati siya malay na pahuway na. Paghuway niyo ang lawi. May panatuli ka na siya pamana. Alam man niya siya di trabaho, alam man niya pagkakan.
The extraordinary skills of the Bajau fishermen are passed down from father to son, paving the way for the next generation to take care of the family. Ahmad and Robin Nadle are a father-son fishing team. Under the tutelage of his father, Robin has mastered the waters, learning breath control and fishing techniques. At only 15 years of age, Robin is now considered an expert spear gun fisherman.
Makana ko ba't dito makausaha marilaut ya pa kung may pinagpanduan ni Sima, si Ina. Makana ko makausaha ba't dito makain ng mamaya patuhuni, saka mamaya kahut na pain para kami makakakan. Sabay kami, tinabangan na pain ni Tuhan. Upayin patuntulin kami, upayin buwanin kami kusog na pain. Ya dohe pakusahan kami, alaman niya sarde.
Kasanto dia ya tao na buat tinaan buat ya Ta-spread na buat ya. Ma simay wat tinaan pulmanay. Wat tinaan. Na iya maya buat aku sali.
Bajau fishermen tend to fish in pairs to minimize risk. Ahmad and Robin look out for one another in case they spot sharks in the open water, or if one of them succumbs to fatigue underwater.
Ako'y may kami Marilao tinaan. Tipagano'y kami akan dakalitan. Yamahiya. Alam na kami makatuntul patuhon. Yahay katawan kami mariom junya itu. Apayahay mamanga naay. Makan kami makapulay na ay. Yadua kuya makatabangi. Baya ko marikidiki yan pa na kuya tinabangan ni iyay. At ipagano'y.
Bang kami buat tamana, biya kami karuangan na ka anak ko. Na buat bang kami binuanan ni Tuhan na buat yahay pamon kami saka 5 kilo, 3 kilo, buat pabalian kami ni Agora saka buat tabali saka 600, mag 700 na buat ahap na palasan kami akabali na buwas. Pagkakakan na kami.
These Bajau fishermen spend practically the whole day toiling out in the ocean looking for enough fish to sustain their family. With the sun setting, Jimmy and his son Aidi return home after a hard day's work in the vast seas. Jimmy hands over his day's catch to his wife, who fulfills the traditional role of the Bajau women, that of a homemaker. She prepares a simple meal consisting of fish, a staple food for the family. In addition to the fish, Jimmy managed to bring home a shellfish today. It is eaten raw with vinegar or salt added for taste. But the shell is kept aside for Jimmy to sell.
Nabangan niya nakima. Di nga nakinaitan na bari buat eh. Kadis kinait bari ni duwan ni bangka. Atuhon na sab. Pagka na mga niya raing ayahe pinanahe. Mga niya taluan panay pinananan sab tinuhog. Akadis ay mga niya raing halaman niya raing niya kimay ni nga na sab. Ni duwan ni bangka. Pagkabot ay bang sa pamatawon na ora namuli na. Sagwa, ang aka kita matuhan, ang kana kumakalangan mareo eh. Natuhan niya magkinabayaan ng mga nyawa. Mga laman niya nyawa, bang balkabantuhan makalang. Alam kita nyawa, bang kita kalangan, bang makapandunapan di. Alaman niya kusog, tasagwa tuhan niya ang ano. Makita ang kan kita kalangan, ang kan kita kusog.
The Bajaus have learnt to coexist with the water by adapting to the impulses of the ocean. But they have also used their expertise to assemble an indispensable tool of their trade, the spear gun. Throughout history, humankind has harnessed the endless energy and resources of the Earth's oceans to build their communities. These communities have turned to innovation and ingenuity to build tools to help them cope with the erratic moods of the sea. The Bajau tribe in the Philippines have always been using spears to hunt for fish, but these masters of the sea have fashioned a much more modern weapon from their tradition. The Bajau use the pana, a spear gun. It is a quintessential tool passed down through the generations and the primary way any Bajau will hunt for fish. Jimmy, as an experienced fisherman, crafts a pana for one of his protégés.
Wata wangay nang panay, timan karikiriki ko, gitinoon ako sa matoako, ranakan ko, iya ito tarabahoon maghinang pana, agtigad pana, agluwang basi.
The pana is made primarily from timber and other easily found materials like copper pipes. Firstly, Jimmy utilizes a machete to painstakingly craft and shape the body of the spear gun. Using only a hammer and a screwdriver, he then carefully fashions a tiny hole in the rod which will eventually be used as the spear.
Sambuton si Wilma, magpabot ni Luma. Nanianay na tinatan na nilamunan na yan kinakan. Iyabilian na binuwa kalaya pinabilian. Mga niya malian na mga tabali na napamili na kinakan. Kati siya kakan na mulay na ni Luma agbala.
To sharpen the tip of the rod, Jimmy hammers down on it repeatedly and cuts out an angled section of it. He then uses the same cut-out section, inserting it into the hole to use as a makeshift hook.
Labang tawon na marilaw, ti agtilod na basi. Pakati sa agtilod basi ang hampana, patuhon na. Pagtuhon ni, akan na narayang ang piha, mga niya rayang nagtapiha, na pinana na. Tapos, mga niya rayang tinuhog ni nylon, bagi pariyata, bang may pali, patuhon na isab, amihan na isab mareo. Ang limutan, mga niya talimod dahing alahi, pinana na iya, katis pinanay, mga niya narayang taluwa, tinuhog na isab maka nylon. At ibang kaya napalabo, bagi ni bangka, katis ba nilaan ng panay, tinuhog.
Once the rubber is stretched back and fastened to the tip of the nozzle, the pana is ready. Jimmy needs to test it and iron out any kinks before he can use it underwater as an effective homemade hunting weapon. The extraordinary velocity generated by the spear gun speaks volumes about the Bajau's traditional lifestyle. Even with the use of everyday materials like rubber, these hunters have crafted a hunting weapon that is simple yet highly effective.
Kaya ang kanakong balang ang gamit po ko, timbala ko tao magtahi ba, diyo man ako ito. Iya gamit ko pa, nahal, iya iluhal gamit ba, diyo halaman niya pokot. Kaya bala ko tao, magtahi po ko tilo, aglamba, napana ito akatis niyan patuhon nahal.
The Bajau are sea gypsies, and boats are a necessity in their lives. Although many Bajau have settled closer to land, the importance of their boats has not diminished. With fishing being the principal industry of these people, the craft of boat making has become just as vital. 55-year-old Feliciano Canani is a boat maker who, when not making new boats, can be found refurbishing old ones.
Nabangya na iya trabaho ko bang akong balo sa banya magsahakaw, buwan niya hinang ko na maghinang na pa nako nabangha. Naya na bangka bang lunas na payan kumarin.
Feliciano has been doing this for 40 years, working his way up from apprentice to now imparting his knowledge to the younger generation.
Nalam do sa baniya o to amando anak ko na buya Tuhan niya buat na matao kita buat ala ko magsagapal ani Tuhan. Naman niya buat kinasaya sa makuha Tuhan o to ya magtrabaho na buat akatis kabe ko ya trabaho. Luma at bangka ala ko magsagapan ni Tuhan.
The boat makers in the Bajau community are pillars of the society. The Bajau's daily coexistence with the water surrounding them leans heavily on their use of boats. Without craftsmen like Feliciano refurbishing old boats and making new ones, the community would invariably come to a standstill. It's tough work for Feliciano, but he carries it out with immense pride.
Kumbal na buat gamit kami rusab. Mabang di importante na buat gamit kami pag-usahaan, ya buat hinangko bang ni sa baniya pamilya ko. Mga laman niya, nabot kami na, anong ko na kami maluma, bot niya sa diano, kami dengan makarangan sa anak ko. Iya bang iya, buat na saka maghaya na, saka maglimad pa na, saka mag 3,000, abot mag 5,000. Nabang sa bariki, rusab, saka buat ito haya na, saka mag 2,000.
The boat makers of the Bajau are a cornerstone of this seafaring tribe, with their tremendous contributions to their people's lifestyle.
Yan ay to sa baho. Mga sabalaman niya iya pag ano baruto ya ilo na ya ilo sab kaluman kami niya ho. Minsan sab kami magusahan. Banglam na saban niya ay nahilang kami ya pa bangka ilo niya ilo sab ano sa niya bayan kami.
Although the Bajau have slowly transitioned away from their roots as nomads, living purely on water, they have still held on to their traditional culture. With night falling on Tutulan Dawis, Bohol's Bajau village, the sound of music fills the air. Celebrations are in order for a 3-day wedding ceremony. For the first 2 days, the Bajau women perform a traditional folk dance at the village's hall. Lorna Kuam is one of the many women who participate in the festivities and perform this folk dance.
Yung preparation namin bago kami pumunta sa wedding dance namin ay mag-makeup kami muna, tapos mag-earrings, mag-kwintas at mag-bracelet. Tapos titingin kami sa salamin kung nakaayos na kami.
The communal dance is called Angigal, with only the women participating. They form their own groups and take turns to perform the traditional dance.
Ano na namin nung nakatatandahan until now, alam na namin yung mga sayo kasi bali ito ang tradisyon namin pag may kakasal. Yun, magtitribute ka doon, sasayaw ka. Mga babae at mga bata lamang pwede. Ang mga lalaki pwede sumasayaw pag siya ang ikakasal, pero pag hindi, ang mga lalaki ay upo lang titingin, pero yung mga babaeng matanda, maliit, dalaga, yun ang pwede sumasayaw doon sa wedding ceremony namin.
Angigal is a tribute to the Bajau's way of life, filled with movements that are inspired by their life at sea.
Ang sayaw namin ay tinatawag na magigal, tapos yung kamay namin ay parang dagat nga umalong at yung bewang namin ay parang mga isda nga sumasayaw.
The Bajau's art and culture imitates their life. It is so deeply imbued with their seagoing lifestyle that one can't help but think that the sea is just the natural extension of their lives. The sea is more than just a resource for the Bajau, comforting and nurturing them in equal measure. From the importance of their fishing to their boat making, and the way these remarkable men and women have naturally coexisted with these vast bodies of water, the Bajau have earned the right to call the sea their home. They are truly the masters of the sea.
Ang kana kung makausama rin ay pausa ko yung marilaw apa kami natural sama. Ya hero pausa ko minsan na niya saddi. Alam niya na saddi pausa ko yung marilaw tito.
With the world's population striving to find more and more land to live on, the ancient tribes of the Uros and the Bajau are a reminder of a simpler time, a time where people had a much more intimate relationship with their environment, living with the water and not just exploiting it. These communities need to be celebrated and respected for their ability to coexist with some of the toughest landscapes of our grand Earth.